Volume podcast.
My name is Daniel Belker. I'm an intermedia artist primarily, but I also act as like a pseudo engineer. I talk to many people in different areas like neuroscience and uh, and basically I work with technology that helps people, right? So currently I'm working as a director of technology for Not Impossible Labs, but I also have my side projects, and they all kind of play with the idea of doing technology for the good, of people. For instance, I've spent the last 6 years developing technologies around the vibration space, haptics, and basically one set of devices to help the deaf to have a better live music experience using vibrations on the skin, wearables, devices, and but it's actually for everyone, regardless of the hearing level. Also, I've been working on the health space with Parkinson's patients and spinal cord injury patients and tinnitus and a little bit of some stuff, seeing the benefits of vibration um, and as a parallel path, I also do my own artistic work.
Mm-hmm. And what's in you? What's deep inside of you that drove you to this?
Uh, that's a kind of a hard question because like with the whole nature versus nurture debate, I've been like this since a very early age, which is kind of weird because my family, you know, I have two brothers. My parents, like no one near me had the same interests that I did with technology, computer programming, electronics, art, music, but also theater, movie making, painting, uh, and dance. So I don't. It's a kind of a weird thing, but basically what I think it might be that a lot of people outgrow those interests in life, and I just kept very in tune with my core childish ideals, basically.
That's a beautiful way to go. So, tell us a bit about your work.
So in 2012, I was using brainwave sensors to trigger images, from the brain activity of a performer on a video in the background, doing all kinds of Wiimote controllers to change parameters of lighting and music and a Kinect to do some skeleton tracking and stuff like very early on. I got into this kind of thing, and I got better into programming. So I started programming for other people as well, for other artistic productions. I had like an intermedia company. We would do stuff for the state government and a few private companies, like Rock in Rio. We did a few things there. And I was very much nurtured by this idea of using digital technology as a tool for the enhancement of artistic expression and augmenting interactivity in the arts. So I did my master's in theater in Rio. I had like a bachelor's degree in law that I got as soon as um, I graduated from the high school. Um, and I went straight in the law school because my hometown didn't have like an arts program or something like that, so I just went into the path of least resistance, in terms of society and everything. But I always knew I wasn't going to follow that path. So as soon as I graduated, I moved to Rio, and then I started pursuing my artistic career, and then it branched out in a few activities like teaching and composing original music for productions and doing my own shows, combining the technology and also programming for other shows. So then I moved to the States in 2014. I worked in Germany, in Munich and Berlin, and I also did some work in Prague, the Prague Quadrennial, the festival there. doing workshops and presenting my shows, art installations and stuff. Always in this intersection of music, art, technology, visual arts, and physical computing. And then I was approached. I was working at Harvestworks Electronic Arts Center in New York. And then I was approached by this guy who had a friend who was involved with Not Impossible in California, and they wanted somebody to get on with this project of helping the deaf to have a better live music experience. And the founder and CEO of Not Impossible, Mick Abelin, he had this vision of like, oh, if we could make the experience more relevant and interesting, and you know, so I thought it would be like a cool side project. I was already working with vibrations, or I was designing glass speakers for my shows and stuff, and uh, I was like, okay, I can, maybe work for a week or two. And it's been 6 years, and I'm still there.
And how do you think your ideas could help this system of, this tactile information to help deaf and hard of hearing people to experience music?
Because I always felt it should be something like music, or any artistic experience, right? You might like it or might not like it, but you get it, like you feel the impact, and that's it. And people were talking at the time about the creation of a new language, and braille and Morse code, and I was like, no, this is not the way. So I went to a completely different route, and it was really effective. Not Impossible basically gave me a lab so I could work in the back of the company, and it was a great time of like a lot of experimentation, and trying, and try and error, and people were coming in and having the experience, and they all would have very strong positive reactions, right? So we all thought we were in the right path, and then we started like receiving nomination for awards, and then good celebrity endorsement, and then the project took off basically.
So in that moment, you stopped working only for yourself or for your artistic ambitions and start working for other people.
Yeah, it was actually the first time in my life that I got like a regular job, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It was a kind of like a weird, crazy job, because I would just bike to the company, and I had my lab there, and I would just close the doors and put like very loud music, and
Sounds great.
spend. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But then we started to do some research on the health space, and I was invited to move to New York again to represent Not Impossible in a research with Mount Sinai. So I spent 1 year at Mount Sinai researching, the vibrations in the Parkinson space.
Yeah, let me jump right in here and ask you something. So now you're working in a hospital. It's a lab, but it's inside a hospital. So how did that change you?
That's a good question. I think um, for me, the hospital environment was extremely, um, like, it was super tough. I would go back home, and I would cry. I would feel like so sad because of, out of compassion, right? Because you see all kinds of like, but it gives you like an amazing sense of perspective, right? Like you start like really reevaluating, what you have, uh, in a number of things we take for granted, right? So the contact with the hospital world was really tough for me, especially tough. And one day I just asked Dave, I said, man, how can you live with that? You like, it's your life. Every day you are under these circumstances, like, what's the secret? What's it like? And he said, man, there's no secret, never gets better. It's horrible, but it's our call, it's our mission. And I was so, up to this day, I'm very, very um, appreciative of what people do for the others. I'm very close to the medical community and people who give their lives helping others in such a deep level. Especially in these times, right in COVID, and they're going through such a hardship. It's amazing. So I'm extremely grateful that such personalities exist. It's not for me. I would die in 5 years, but it's amazing what the stamina and the endurance and the passion that they present is an example for, I think, all aspects of society. We should learn with these guys a lot.
So I just want to go a little deeper in the subject of frequency. If you can explain just a little bit more how that relates to your work and how that may impact our lives.
So I think the impact of the possible outcomes is almost infinite. So in 2016, I came up with a document that we jokingly call it the pasta document, right? So I would basically say, you know what? It's like pasta, right? When you're cooking pasta, pasta can take like infinite shapes, right? It can be capelletti, cannelloni, lasagna, pizza, spaghetti, like whatever. But then you add a little, a few ingredients here and there, and voila, you have a completely different dish, right? And you have like whole careers and a whole industry made just around pasta. The sauces and the like the ingredients, the combination, how to serve. Like there is a whole world of pasta, right? So I think the same analogy can be played with vibrations. Not just vibrations, but as you were saying, like frequency, right? Because on a deeper level, and this goes very spiritual and esoteric, but also very scientific, on the sense that all is vibration, right? Like everything is like the electrons are moving in a with a rate that is actually measurable, right? And light has the wave pattern, but it has the particle pattern and the wave pattern. So it has frequencies, right? Like electricity, and everything is vibrating right now. Our cells, like everything, everywhere. So I think this connection with frequency is the deepest connection of matter that you can get, because that's basically like the fundamental energy. I know it's a kind of a broad statement, but this is really how I feel. I see everything, in movement and tuning. Coming from a professional musical background, the tuning, like how when you match, two frequencies, or when you have them slightly off, or like all of these combinations, I think they can have effects in people's health state, mental state, emotional state, solid materials. Right now, police in New York, unfortunately, are using sonic weapons, right? So you have all of these cleaning devices using ultrasound, right? So the applications of manipulating frequency are endless. Like it's ridiculous. But I think it's going to be especially relevant in the health space in the upcoming years. So once you start getting off of the mechanistic idea of medicine, that okay, so do you have a headache? Take a pill to fix your headache. Oh yes, but that ruins your stomach. Oh, now you take another pill to fix your stomach. Oh, now the pill that you took for your stomach makes you it's bad for your liver. Oh, okay, so now you have to take another liquid to fix your liver, and like thinking of human beings as like machines with a lot of small pieces that work together. I think it's much more complex than that, and it's like a whole that interoperates, and everything affects everything because everything is linked. If you take that approach, then frequency becomes suddenly like extremely relevant.
Sure. How does this play out in your project for deaf people? What did you learn from that?
Going to the project specifically, what we learned is the experience is not only relevant for deaf people, but it shifts the perspective of an accessible experience. Because for something to be accessible, you have to have like a main group and another group that is left out. And then you invite them in, right? Oh, suddenly something that wasn't for them becomes for them too. So this is accessibility. But the project, I think it's much more than including. It includes everyone, regardless of the hearing level, from the get-go. So this is a paradigm shift, because like we're not inviting the deaf to join something. It's something that it doesn't matter if you're deaf or not. And we had the concrete experience of witnessing this, which was a very beautiful moment in my life. I'll never forget when we were in Life is Beautiful in Vegas, and we have the Greta Van Fleet show, a rock band that won the Grammy Awards as best rock band. They were playing, and there were 200 people in the room. It was a small venue. Of these, 70 people were deaf, and most of them profoundly deaf, and you couldn't tell. Everybody was dancing, they were enjoying. So in that moment, I realized I was like in the back in a place that was higher, so I could see everyone. And for me, that moment was like pure joy, like the like the purest form one can experience, because I was just seeing the vision we've had for years come true in the most amazing environment. The energy in the room was exhilarating, because suddenly there was not us and them. It was just like everybody enjoying this concert and having a great time. And for me, this was like a pivotal moment, of something we had been building for years, and then suddenly came true. On the Parkinson space, to be able to witness people of all kinds of symptoms and issues suddenly have this like small glimpse of hope, and saying like, oh, okay, people don't know how to fix this disease yet, but suddenly I'm able to regain aspects of my life that I wasn't able to do anymore, and suddenly I can do it. So it's an amazing feeling. I'm not obviously not making any medical claims. It doesn't work the same for everybody. It's not like it's still experimental device. We're going through scientific trials, but there's like consistent hope there, because we saw a few very interesting cases there.
Mhm. So do you think we are, I don't know, just making a point here, that we are kind of addicted to frequencies as something that we can hear, and we don't actually think of frequencies as something that can affect matter in general, even the ones that we cannot hear?
I wouldn't say addicted, but it's something like you start seeing or like experiencing something for your whole life, and everybody comes with this proposition, right? Okay, frequency / music, sound. Okay, so I'm just experiencing frequency from one sense, but even like for sight, right? They have this researches on laser pulses, with light, that can benefit, some neurodegenerative conditions, and really they have consistent results. And then, but yes, I agree. I think we are used to think to associate frequency to sound, but it's not just that. It can be your skin, it can be light, it can be the vibration of matter, or like so there's a huge what differentiates light, color, and sound and tactile vibration is just the it's basically a difference in speed, right? um, so there's a lot to be understood there, for sure.
So talking about the Parkinson space, what's the main idea? What's the main purpose and use of the technology?
In the Parkinson space specifically, what people have been researching and stuff is that you have different, how can I say, not outcomes, but you have different approaches with different symptoms, right? For a few people might be neuroplasticity, for other people might be something rhythmic and psychological, for other people might be something like bilateral stimulation that people do, by posting in different areas of your body, you have improvements. For some people, it's just like a jolt of energy through the skin that helps you. Like, so, as I'm saying, like it's pasta, like you can do whatever, it's just an ingredient. But how you apply and how your body deals with that varies significantly. You have many use cases.
So we're very in the realm of possibilities, right? And how do you see this technology being used in 10 years' time? What do you think we're going to be focusing on?
I think it's something for your skin. It's gonna be ubiquitous, right? People are gonna start digging into like how technology can use the skin. As I say, I used to say that for our project. I came up with this concept of the skin as a new canvas, right? So if you think about the eyes receiving like movies and light
Mm-hmm.
shows and whatever, and the ears for music or words, then suddenly you also have the skin as a possible area for experiences and even language, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think in 10 years we're going to see all kinds of different deployments of technology that relate to the skin, right? So even like we can think of tattoos and all kinds of things that can be activated electronically and can create some kind of contact to your skin to make you feel different textures and different, all kinds of
Information.
yeah, information exactly. And there's something to be said about the skin as a form factor for stimulation, because think for a little bit, if you want to have something visual, right, you have to be looking at in a specific spot, right? You cannot see something that's behind your head, so you have to be looking to a screen or some direction. With your ears you have to have speakers, so everybody else is having the experience in the room, or you have to have headphones, right? And then you're basically shutting yourself from the outside world, right? In terms of
Mm-hmm.
a listening experience. But with the skin you can have an absolutely private experience that nobody else in the room knows, and it can give you like all kinds of different sensations and stimuli, and you can keep your social function. A very, very primitive example to illustrate that idea would be your cell phone vibrating on your pocket, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
vibrates there. It's a little noisy, right? But let's take the noise out for a second, and let's imagine you are in a noisy environment. Only you knows your cell phone is vibrating on your pocket, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can decide whatever to do with that information. Should I look to see if somebody's sending me a message, or should I just ignore and keep the conversation going? So if one can imagine like an application of skin stimuli, it can be heat, it can be texture. It doesn't necessarily need to be vibration, but something that you wear under your shirt, for instance. You can have all kinds of information happening in real time without disrupting your social or whatever activities you want to have, and also without demanding that you keep looking on a specific spot. So I think uh, it's a great means of a new expression form.
And you think that in 10 years we'll be uh, focusing on that?
Yeah, amongst of many things like implants, right? I have a friend who he has implanted magnets around his ear, so when he uses like a copper necklace, he's able to listen to music without headphones or anything, and nobody else hears it because it just excites the magnet inside his ear. So I think there is going to be a lot of very interesting applications, and I think also these implants and things are also, they also have this, and he actually works in a company that produces a chip that you can unlock cell phones and have like barcodes and identify you, and even like have your like a credit card associated with that. So let's say an Apple Pay, it wouldn't be like your phone to be just your wrist. You just there and you pay
Mm-hmm.
it. So there yeah, many things that you can do with your skin, right? And people who are scared of becoming cyborgs, they can just have things that are more, they're not so permanent as an implant. But I think it's gonna be a huge uh, deployment for the some of the advantages I just mentioned, but also things that we cannot even imagine right now.
And how about your new projects? What you're working right now?
So right now I'm working on a new concept called dynamic objects. There are basically, a combination of uh, furniture design and wellness and sound and all of the stuff that I always worked with. And the idea is to improve people's, uh, you know, uh, mental and emotional states through sound and and frequencies, basically. So if you think like yeah, last year I had like a serious burnout, and it was a very interesting situation because I had never, always not skeptical, but I was kind of hesitant when people told me like, oh yes, I felt so bad, I had panic attacks or something. I thought, okay, it's a chemical imbalance or something in the brain, and people were, but when it happened to me, I realized that my cognitive, my rational functions were perfectly normal. I would see myself in that situation, but I didn't have any control. And that was very scary. I was like, okay, so I'm telling myself I shouldn't be like that. I'm telling myself that there's no threat around me or something like that, but I would feel, anxiety and this kind of thing. And I had a very good improvement. Dave Puccino, my friend, helped me, and Not Impossible was really understanding of the situation. They gave me a break and stuff, but I was able to think about this and like realize how important it is to have some external things, so you can rely on them to help you out. So basically, what I did was I started researching and doing, treatments with sound and techniques like that and meditation, and I had like a very very good recovery. I was not 100%, right? It's not like a miracle, but with steady work and stuff, I eventually got very better, very much better, and now I'm completely fine. And so I thought it worked for me, so it should work for somebody else too. And because I always have this ethical, approach in life, I thought I should, share those solutions to other with other people as well. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Awesome. And as a last question, which is also an option question, would you like to ask me or Kunumi a question?
Yeah. So what can we do together? That's my question.
Yeah, man, I think we must. There is always an idea of trying to create something that will help us translate what we are feeling and what we are living right now. And I think we could use AI as a form of, information and data or data processing, but in a way that the output is something physical. And we can also try to translate that into the United Nations SDGs, and because that's something that is actually giving us a path forward. So that already excites me so much, and it's awesome.
That's such a wonderful thing because I don't know who said it. Some people say it's Einstein, some people say like whatever. You know how the internet goes in terms of quotes, right? But the right, but the best way of predicting the future is inventing it, right?
Sure.
So I think there is something to like the core idea. I think the most important idea that should run society from now on is the circular for everything, right? Because even if you think about industry standards, like all the components are made out of plastic, right? And they're not so you have a lot of e-waste and stuff. So this is wrong, and this has to change. And this basically powers everything that we're doing right now, right? The idea of extracting resources, transforming them, making them not recycle and just throw away. But there's no away, right? Away is somebody's backyard.
True.
So I think everything, like like how even here, like I was my kids wanted to, like a very simple, stupid thing, but to illustrate that idea, like I put water on the pool for my kids. It's a small pool, 8 feet, just a plastic thing. They have fun, it's hot and they had a great time. Then it's like, what am I going to do with the water? Now it's dirty, right? It stayed there for a couple of days. I'm just going to, use it to water my lawn, my garden, right? So I'm just picked up some buckets. Then I realized I have water to water the garden for 3 days, and it was always all going to be wasted. And I was like, this is, So I think that 2030 approach is always how to make it circular, right? Like everything needs to come here, go through a process, come back to the same point. Obviously, it will be like I don't know the word in English, but helicoidal, right? Mm-hmm. It's not a spiral because it doesn't expand, but it spins. So if you look in the XY axis, mm-hmm. it's a circle. But mm-hmm. if you flip it and in 3D and you see the Z axis, it's actually it's moving right up. Mm-hmm. So you are perfecting, you're moving. You're not going back to the same spot. You're actually evolving, but mm-hmm. on a circular form. So I think a coil mm-hmm. is the shape that sums up perfectly the vision for the future. It will be the symbol of 2030. For me, it's a coil.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. It was so cool.
Yeah, I agree. Cool talking to you. Thank you for this great interview, Felipe. It was great, man. Thank you. Cheers. Keep in touch.
Thank you.